What I'm going to show you on this video is how to plan a winter session. It's cold, it's miserable. Trust me, that is deadly. Just scale down, scale the elastic down, you'll get more bites and you'll catch more fish. When it comes to the fishing, what happens in the winter, the water normally goes clearer. When it goes clearer, the fish don't want to feed so much. You've got to scale everything down. You've got to scale your elastic down to cover the size of the hook that you're going to fish. So if I've got a 20 on, I'm going to use a number 8 elastic. If I've got an 18 on, a 10 elastic. And what I do, I cover everything now from 18s and 20s hooks. The fish don't fight the same. You can get away with it. You can use lighter lines, lighter elastics. But if you don't, you won't get a bite. And you can see the 010, 011, the 20s, 18s, and them's the only type of hook that I'm going to be using in the winter. Trust me, if you put big lines on and you put big hooks on, you won't get a bite. Today I'm using the neon on the hook. One of the great advantages of the neons is they're so versatile. You can just pick them out and hook them like a pellet. You can actually hair rig them, you can band them. But one of the great beauties about them that you can't do with other pellets is you can squash them flat so they actually look like a piece of bread, and they actually float about in the water when they get to the bottom. You can put two colours together and flatten them together so you've got a colour either side. In fact, I would go as far as to say they're probably the most versatile bait on the market that you can use. Right, what's dobbing? Well, I'm going to tell you the story first. A few years ago, one of my favourite anglers, a lad called Andy Finley, he went, if you put any feed in, you won't get a bite. And you've got to put your rig in, move it and move it. The fish will take the bait, but they won't come to a quantity of bait. And it's very, very difficult for a commercial angler to actually think, I'm going to not feed to catch a carp. Because your natural instinct to fish for carp is to feed. And most club anglers, when they go nowadays, they kill the peg on the first cast by putting a pot full of bait in. And you can't do that. You've got to search your peg, around your peg, with just hook bait on. And that's called dobbing. Sometimes when you're fishing in open water, they'll be in the open water. But when you've got an opportunity like this where you've got a swim, where you've got reeds and everything, you can bet your bottom dollar that the fish will be in the reeds. The first thing I'm going to do, you've probably noticed I haven't got a pot on. And I'm going to go right at the end of the pole, and I'm going to put it there. I'm going to put it in as near to the reeds as I can, and I'm just going to be patient. Just sit there, and if you're lucky enough, sometimes you can catch one really early. And then after 5 minutes, if I don't get one, I'll just lift it and drop it back in. And sometimes that's when you get your bite, get your fish, because the fish will just an instinct will come out and take it. But just be a little bit patient. Don't think you've got to keep moving all the time, because you don't want to cover all your peg straight away. And then after 5 to 10 minutes, when you've decided, you can pick it up and you can go 2 foot away into your new spot. That's all that you're doing, dobbing about your peg. There we go, so that were a different spot, that one. It's a spot that probably my 4th or my 5th spot. It's just an F1. It's been in a few seconds, had an indication and it went straight under. And now just keep your pole nice and low, break it off. Oh, it's a nice F1 look. There we go. So that were probably £1.5, and I got that in that spot, probably 4th different spot that I've been trying. And that's what can happen. Perfect, let's get another one. Now I've just gone straight back in onto that same spot just to see. And there you go, I've got one. I'm lucky, I've hooked another one. It's only a small F1, but that's probably why. I've managed to get 2 out of that spot. Now, next cast I will not be going in that spot because I don't want to really spook them. It's not a big fish, it's only an F1, but it's a fish. Just take your time, watch the elastic. If the elastic's straight out, take your time. Put it in the net. Only a little F1. But on a cold winter's day, they're all welcome. There you go. And you even get planes flying by to watch you look at Lindholm. Look at that, Lindholm F1, does that get any better than that? I've caught 5 or 6 fish, but it's been a couple of hours gone now and I ain't had a bite for quite a while. So I might have to change tactics. You might have to feed a little bit to try and get a few fish in your peg, especially if the day warms up a little bit and it makes a difference. But what I don't do, I don't go chasing them and start feeding 5 or 6 pegs. I feed one. Just feed one and hope the fish come to it. And then if the fish come to your feed, you know that the fish wants a little bit of feed and you can do it elsewhere then. But try it in just one of your spots. Just a little pot like that, a minute pot. There's hardly any bait in it, you don't need a lot of bait. And all I'm going to do, it's fishery rules, so I've got to use fishery pellets and I'm just using a few micros. I'm going to tip them in that. If I could use a 2-in-1 bait I would, or a mixture of them both. And then I just gently touch it like that. And so all you do then, you ship it out. So the pole float is going on top of the water. Keep the pot in the upright position. Ship it out. Take your time, it's not a race. It's all about doing it correctly. When you get to your spot, under your elbow, line it up, tip it over, just touch water, lift it up, tap it all out and it comes out in one. Lift the float into the splash and the 10-second rule. 10 seconds, your rig then will be in a straight line. You lower it into the water and you're on your feeding bait. That's what you're trying to do in your 5 hours of match fishing. You're trying to create and use all the 5 hours, the feeding patterns, the techniques at the right time of the day. I've had an indication straight away. It's just dinked a little bit. That tells me that the fish might have come to food. I'll know hopefully in a few seconds if float goes under. And that's all that you're trying to do. My old mate Dennis says to me, he said, first cast and last cast are the most important 2 casts of the day. And what he meant by that is, you can catch one first cast because you're casting into it, into a space, fish come to it, and then last cast when the fish want to start feeding. And that's swim management. The last hour is really important. And usually fish are going to feed a little bit last hour. And oh, nice F1. And usually in last hour you can feed a little bit to get them into your peg. So start your peg off negative by dobbing a little bit to see if they want bait, but certainly at last hour if you're going to get away you need to be feeding. Oh, look at that lovely F1. And it's last hour now, the fish are feeding. And if you get it right, what you can do, look at that, yellow Fjuka. You can catch beautiful F1 like that. Well, we're well into the last hour now and it's getting quite dark, but it's typical of the last hour when the fish are feeding and you don't want to go home. I hate fish sometimes. You can sit there all day at winter and not get a bite and then your peg's solid, but that's typical of the last hour. But that's winter fishing, and if you know that, you can plan your match for that. And now every cast now it's an F1, and you won't think they were fishing the peg most of the day. It's crackers. And that's why we love winter fishing. The only trouble is we're always packing up in the dark.